Bundling and publishing TypeScript libraries can be tricky, especially with all the configuration, dual formats if you need to publish CJS and ESM, and have heard of that, otherwise ESM is the future. And of course, needing a degree and all of these. But it doesn't have to be like that. So time to meet tsdown, the elegant library bundler. With simplicity and speed in mind, tsdown is designed to make your life as library author way easier. Let's take a look at the core features. First of all, tsdown is built on top of Rolldown, which is a powerful Rust-based bundler. And that will also be the default to meet soon. But instead of setting up Rolldown directly, you can just take tsdown's simplified configuration optimized for building libraries and don't have to bother with a lot of options. The best part is, well, to get started, you don't even need anything. You don't even need configuration. To show that, let's take this very simple TypeScript file, and if we want to bundle that, then all we have to run is npx tsdown and then point to that file. And after that, in just a, well, blazing fast 157 milliseconds, we've not only bundled it in ESM, but also provided the declaration files, so TypeScript support. If you need something like ESM and CJS, well, of course, then you can pass it with the format argument, and in just a few milliseconds more, you get both the CJS and the ESM output. Of course, there are configuration options as you need, and there's also a watch mode to make development easier. So you can rebuild your library while actually developing on it, and thanks to Rolldown, this is pretty fast. Of course, there are also other tools out there to build your library, bundle it, emit declaration files, and so on and so on. I think the first that comes to mind is tsup, not only because of the name. Actually, tsdown is the spiritual successor to tsup, but while tsup is built on ESBuild, as mentioned before, tsdown is built on Rolldown, which means not only better performance, but also more features that ESBuild didn't support or were somehow baked into tsup. And Egoist, the maintainer of tsup, also mentioned that tsdown is the future because Kevin, the author of tsdown, was also contributing to tsup beforehand, and that tsup is no longer maintained. So in terms of tsup versus tsdown, that's kind of answered. But another tool that comes to mind is Vite with its library mode. So tsdown will be used as the foundation of Vite's Rustified library mode, when Rolldown will become the default bundler in Vite itself. So using tsdown now will give you a cohesive and robust experience in the long run as a library author. As we've talked quite a bit about Rolldown, we also have to talk about Rollup, which is another general bundler like Rolldown, but it is JavaScript based. It is important to note that Rolldown is compatible with the Rollup plugins, and of course, thanks to being written in Rust and having other performance improvements, way faster. And it will also cover features that Rollup will not include. And last but not least, we have ESBuild, which is what tsup used as a foundation before. Compared to other bundlers as a foundation, ESBuild is fast because it's written in Go, not as fast as Rolldown though, and also the plugin ecosystem is not as rich as Rollup's and then also Rolldown's ecosystem. With tsdown supporting Rollup, Rolldown, Unplugin, and even some Vite plugins, well, that's the best you can hope for, right? So all the things you might not need to reinvent, well, they're just there, you can use them. But after talking about various build tools, let's show how we can actually apply tsdown instead of tsup with a quick migration. And with quick, I promise you, it will be fast. Not as fast as bundling your application though. As a perfect example of a library that uses tsup and can be migrated to tsdown easily, well, let's take the ESLint config of Anthony Fu. Because it is a well-scoped package, it works pretty well, it has tsup installed, and let's see what we can do here. Before starting the migration, let's actually run a quick build and see what tsup is actually doing here. We have an install that removes the files from before, okay, that shouldn't matter too much, and then also generates the DTS files. And we see this roughly takes a bit more than 3 seconds, so 3,360 milliseconds. Okay, that's it. Now let's move over to tsdown, and all you need to do is writing pnpm dlx, or npx if you want, tsdown migrate. The first prompt will be, sure, let's read the migration guide, very important, you should check that out. In our case, we can continue, and then the migration script will do its magic work. And actually, we have a tsdown config now. We only need to install dependencies again with our package manager, in this case pnpm, and we're good. Now, let's look at the changes though and see what actually happened, because the tsup config and the tsdown config, they look pretty much the same. This is because, well, tsdown wasn't only heavily inspired by tsup, it should also act as an almost drop-in replacement. Because why not? A lot of options are really good there and should be very simple. But of course, there might be some things that are different compared to tsup. That's why the migration guide here is very useful to read in these cases. Nevertheless, let's run a build and see how long it will take now. And we see 3360 milliseconds down to 1792. That's a 2x improvement and pretty good for such a small library. So you see the migration is pretty straightforward. Of course, depending on your library's needs, there might be some caveats, which are also covered in the migration guide. Otherwise, feel free to raise an issue as well. But the best part is you get a free build speed up, like literally with just a few minutes of effort. So try it out, take a look at the docs all around here. Or if you're just watching the video from somewhere else, then take a look at the docs, link in the description, and try out tsdown.